All right, all right, all right. I'm super excited. All right, let's get started. Let's get started. So, who wants to learn how to get money out of the dirt? We've got a few dollars here in some compost. Who wants to learn how to get it out of the soil? Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about why most real estate leaves money in the dirt, and I'm going to show you how to turn landscape from a cost position into a value generating system. Because many people think that landscaping is like an afterthought. They think like, oh, I don't have to care about it. And then the problem starts. Plants die, your tenants complain. So I'm going to show you how you can actually do it differently today. And I'm also an award-winning author of the book, 12 Universal Laws of Nature, How to Use Your Land to Its Full Potential. So who's excited about learning about this? Let's go. A quick disclaimer, I'm not giving you any financial, legal, or investment advice today. So I grew up on a farm in Belgium. I'm from Belgium. I came all the way from Europe. In fact, I live in the Azores now, which is already halfway between. Yeah, thank you. And so this is me, the little guy here on the left side. Yeah, that's left for you too. That's me, and that's my older brother and my younger sister, and they're actually running the farm today. And we've transformed it from an industrial farm into a regenerative farm. And now people come visit the farm. There's lots of activities, we've transformed the whole landscape around it. And now I have clients in 5 continents. This is a project in Costa Rica that we're doing, 150 hectares development project, where this is a part of the master plan. It's 150 hectares, that's 300 acres. And this is just a fifth of the project. And so we're redesigning the infrastructure, adding roads, adding all kinds of things so that we can get the most potential out of this farm. So it's very farm focused, but also developments. Yeah, this is how it's gonna look. We're doing some renders at the moment. And so yeah, this is for you today if you think that your investment should be worth more than it is today. This is also for you if you want your assets if you want assets that perform in bad years and not just in good years. So that's really important because the market is doing a little bit of a downturn. So if you fix your landscape and you do it in a good way, guess who's going to be picked first if you want new tenants? So this is also for you if you're tired of reactive fixes and want a real strategic plan. So this is definitely not for you if you're happy treating your land as a cost center. This is also not for you if you think curb appeal is not important. If you think that by looking at this house, you'll find tenants, well, then this presentation is not for you. So, and it's also not for you if you're not open to seeing land differently. So what you'll learn today, why conventional land use is destroying your long-term value, how high-quality green infrastructure increases property value, why regenerative real estate has lower maintenance, and I'll show that to you today, how that looks, and how smart investors turn land into a financial instrument. And I'm already working with Alfonso on a project here in Ottawa, so that's super exciting. So give a round of applause for working with Alfonso. It's really cool. So I'll show you some of that today. So what you also learn is what makes some properties resilient in the landscaping industry and what makes others a financial burden. So imagine if your investments required less maintenance every year. Who would like to have some less maintenance on their properties? Who would like that? Okay, great. Got some hands. Imagine if your curb appeal attracts more and better tenants. Who doesn't like to find new tenants all the time? Show me some hands if you don't like to find new tenants. Okay. And so yeah, the curb appeal will really help with that. Imagine if your development attracted higher income buyers automatically. And imagine if your asset appreciated faster than your neighbors. I've got some really exciting scientific papers, scientific proof, how a good landscape actually improves the value of the properties. Yes, so let's move on. I'm working with Alfonso. I met Alfonso at the Real Estate Summit at Sea. If you haven't signed up for the Real Estate Summit at Sea, you got to talk to Mario. It's an amazing event, 1 week on a boat. And that's where I really connected with Alfonso and Helene. And Helene loves gardening. She arranged all the plants here. Actually, some of the plants that are here today will repurpose in one of their projects. So that's a fun fact. And I was on Alfonso's podcast yesterday. And so what we're really working on for Alfonso and the team is we're making a regenerative real estate plan. So what we first do is we do a money leak audit. So we look at where are you losing money in your property. Then we also look at grants and incentives. I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because there's lots of incentives for green development and green space development. And we also do an OPEX reduction. So we look at the cost, how can we reduce it, how can we do better? And we're doing an asset value creation. So we're really looking at that property, how can we improve it? And finally, we're doing the improved curb appeal. And what's really important in that is that we will make sure that there's a better tenant attraction and retention. So that Helene taught me some really cool things about that, and so I want to show that to you. So this is actually one of their properties here in Ottawa, and so they're having a bit of a problem because it's a beautiful building, it's just a new build, it's doing relatively well, but some tenants are now complaining that the grass isn't looking so good. They have like dogs that are peeing on the grass, and so the tenants are one of the tenants is starting to get a bit worried. And so what we're really going to do is we're going to create something that is much better. And in this specific case, Helene told me like there's a really high tenant turnover. So people don't even stay that long in these types of buildings. And there's a low tenant retention. So people tend to move away from it relatively fast. So that's what we're actually going to create. Who would like to live in a property like that? Give me a... Thank you. So the root of all goodness lie in the soil of appreciation for goodness. A beautiful quote from the Dalai Lama. So conventional properties leave money in the ground. And let's have a look at this. So this is kind of like the average North American front lawn or front garden, front property. And that actually doesn't perform as well as you think. So let's have a closer look at what's actually going on here, what's happening under the ground. So first of all, the grass that you think is easy to maintain, it's actually much higher in maintenance than you expect. Sometimes the grass dies, you have to get an irrigation system. Like it's really much higher in maintenance than you think. Then also you have a really kind of a low curb appeal. It's just the average front garden in North America. So that property doesn't really stand out in the crowd, in the sea of saneness. So also, it has a high climate risk. So now with wildfires, droughts, we have all these climate risks that are increasing, not only in Canada, but in other parts of the US. And so we have to also think about how this can be a problem, how can we mitigate that. It's also high input, so you have to put fertilizer, you have to put a lot of things to keep it somewhat looking okay, and people are really struggling. And this is actually a project of one of my clients that we helped. Because they were just putting all the chemicals, fertilizers, all that things. And there's no competitive edge to this property. So, and high water bills, there's not only the water bills, but you have to maintain the irrigation system, and the irrigation systems break down. And so it's a huge cost center if you actually consider it over the years. So what we can do is something way better. So let's have a look. We can create a regenerative design. Who would like to come home to a house like this? Imagine coming home. Who would like that? Show me some hands. Yeah, so imagine you have a day with this is your property and you're looking for a new tenant, and it's a nice sunny day in Ottawa, and you go show this house. How do you think people will feel when they arrive here? They'll be like, wow, this is where I want to spend my time and where I want to be home. It immediately changes things. They'll walk through the flowers, they will smell things, they might see some butterflies, and so they are much more emotionally connected to these type of spaces. And so this type of regenerative design that we do, it may look like it's more maintenance, but if you do it well, it's actually much less maintenance than just random grass. On top of that, high curb appeal, that's very clear, lower climate risk, because I'll talk more about this later in the presentation, but if you do it in this way, your soil becomes more like a sponge, and it can hold on to water much longer. So even if there is a fire, it won't actually catch on fire, because a lot of the fire problems is because the soil is super dry and the plants dry up, and then if a fire comes, it destroys everything. What happened in California last year. So low input costs. So this is the kind of gardens that we set up. We do an investment once, and then it actually stays good for many, many years. We don't have to put fertilizer. We don't have to keep maintaining it. Maybe there's a little bit of maintenance, and I'll show you some statistics around that. but it's like much less than just mowing grass, for example. And high competitive edge, as I said already, and no water bills at all. If you select the right plants for the right property, you don't have to water it. That's really what we specialize in too. So, and obviously there's a higher property value. There's some amazing statistics that I'm going to show you later, scientifically proven, that this can increase the value of your property from 10 to up to 100%. So why isn't everyone doing this? You might be like, okay, it seems so obvious. Why isn't everyone doing it? Well, it's because you're lost in the desert looking for water. Like, you have learned this. Nobody knows about this. And I spent my whole life since I was a child. I grew up on the farm. I started to garden when I was 5 years old, and I studied a lot of different things. So I know how to do it. So conventional landscape management is like a leaking pipe. And you can't even find the leak. So that's really not what you want. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's what I see that everyone does. Now it's the time of the year, it's springtime. Everyone thinks like, this is the year. This is the year where my garden is going to look amazing. And they go to the garden center, they buy the plants, they stick them in the ground, hoping that it's going to be the year where everything works out, but then all plants died. And they keep doing that over and over again, expecting the same results. So we have to stop doing that. And in fact, the landscaping and gardening industry, they don't want you to be too successful at land management. It may sound a little bit weird, but if you look at it, their business model is not that you buy plants once and then you don't have to come back. Their business model is, I want to sell you as much plants. I hope as many plants die so that next year you come back again. And it's not a conspiracy or something. It's how this industry grew, and I'm part of it. So it's not really good, but we can do much better. And it's also in the greenhouses, they add a lot of chemicals, fertilizers. It's like a protected environment. And the plants are looking beautiful, but then you put them in the soil and they die because they're like, it's kind of like plants on steroids. And then you put them in the ground, they don't have that same environment, and then they die. And obviously a lot of chemicals are being used, which is not as good. So what most landscaping companies do is they mow, they blow, and then they go, and then they send you a nice big invoice. So that's not what we want, right? Why do you want to spend money just like that? So then how can we do way, way better? How can we do something that is actually valuable for you and for your tenants? So the way to do it is regenerative design. So this is one of our projects in Belgium, and this was a garden. The owner was fed up with it. They were using chemicals. It had weeds everywhere. They were really tired of it, and we redesigned the whole garden, and this is how it looks today. And so now it has much less maintenance, it has more biodiversity, it looks better, it's more beautiful. So that's what's possible. And a regenerative property has far less maintenance costs. I already mentioned that before, but let's have a closer look. This property, when I first came to my clients, they said that they're spending 60 plus hours of maintenance a year. And I calculated in the Canadian dollar, and that should be around 4,500 Canadian dollar that they were spending on this kind of conventional gardening methods. And we've changed it, and now we've reduced it to only 12 hours a year. So that's somewhere around 900 Canadian dollars, and that's a cost reduction of 80% just by changing the systems, the design, using the right plants, working with nature more than against it. So that's really what it's about. So you can turn your land into a financial instrument. People are mostly focusing on renovations of the buildings. They think that that's really important, and it is, but there's other ways that you can get the most potential out of your land. So high quality landscapes, they sell faster for more, and they lease better. So that's really what you want. Who wants that? Show me some hands if you want that. Okay, great. So this is another interesting story. I went to the cruise ship with Mario, and I met someone who's been a real estate investor in Ottawa for over 30 years. He's made millions. He was really successful. And after listening to this presentation, he came up to me and he said, oh my God, 20 years ago, I had a property and I had just bought it, and we completely renovated the inside. So we changed the bathrooms. We made it really, really nice. Like it was up to standards back then. And then he made beautiful pictures. He put it online, so to market it, they sent it out to all the realtors. And then what happened next is, it's a click that he had 30 years later. He said, well, people would book to come and see the property, and they would drive up to the property, and he's waiting for the appointment, and he would see that they would drive away, straight away. So he was like, what's happening? Like, I've invested so much money in renovating this building, it's beautiful, but people come to my meeting and they drive away again. And he didn't get it only after my presentation. He was like, it's the curb appeal. It's because it's a relative generic building, multifamily, and people see the pictures of the inside, beautiful, but then they come to the building and they're like, oh, that's not really what I want. So they have something like this, just grass. And so that's really important for you as a multifamily or general real estate investor. You gotta think of this, otherwise your tenants might leave. So imagine if we come to a building like that, who would say like, wow, I would like to live here. I would love to live here, sorry. Who thinks that this building will rent better and faster? Give me some hands. Yes. So next is property value. So investing in high quality landscaping can increase the value of a property from anywhere from 5 to 10% or more. And so there's a beautiful research paper done by someone, a PhD person, Kathleen Wolf, and she did, over the course of 20 years, she looked at different properties. And so she looked at neighborhoods where they did what everyone is doing. They built the buildings, they put some grass, some trees, and that's it. And then she looked at other neighborhoods that invested early on into high quality landscaping. And so the buildings, everything was exactly the same. So the location is the same, access to schools, like everything is the same. The only difference that she found was the quality of the landscaping. And what she found out was very impressive. So she found out that these properties appreciated significantly faster. They also retained value better during downturns. So if the market goes down, these buildings actually stayed more steady, or they would still increase. She also found out that these type of high landscape, nice buildings would attract higher income buyers and tenants, and had lower vacancy and higher safety. So this is really something like, it's part of our human nature. When we see a beautiful landscape, we will respect it more. It becomes a safer environment. So that's where also you will attract the right tenants. You don't want, who has dealt with some not so nice tenants and where it really was difficult to get them out? Who has dealt with that? Yeah. So you don't want to do that, right? You want to attract the right tenants that will appreciate these environments. And so she also saw that they benefited from a really significant compounding effect over decades. In fact, she found out that in several documented cases, the cumulative price gap after 20 years approached or exceeded 100% compared to similar neighborhoods without green investments. So that means your building can be worth almost double that compared to the one of your neighbor or another neighborhood just by focusing on high quality landscaping. So let's have a quick look at some commercial real estate. So this is a beautiful building in the Netherlands, and there they said, okay, we want a beautiful building, but integrating landscaping and nature into it. So there's a water retention pond, there's low maintenance gardens, in fact, this building has lower air conditioning costs because you see that it has these poles where vines grow on, and so when it's winter, there's no leaves, and you have more sun coming into the building, so you have lower heating costs. But once it's getting hotter, like now, there's plants growing and actually covering parts of the building, and so you have lower air conditioning. So that's really interesting how nature can even help you in reducing maintenance costs of your building. It also has obviously a very high appeal. It has a visitor attraction, like people want to come to these buildings, and that's how the property looks today. It's a commercial property, and it's really interesting because it has a diversified income. So it has an industrial warehouse, it has greenhouses for food and venues. So some of the greenhouses are used to produce food, but also to have events inside. And they also have a very natural feeling. We're all like connected, we all came from nature, and then in the last 200 years, we became very disconnected from nature. But inside, we love to be in natural environments. So that's really what it's also about. There's the mirror pond. It has gardens and a farm, so people want to go to these types of environments. It also has nature walks in the back of the property. And this is really interesting. It has a super diversified income. So if you're interested in diversifying your real estate, this is really what it's about. So let's look at what they have. So they have the industrial warehouse, which is at the back of the building. So when you arrive to the property, you don't even see an ugly building. You have the beautiful facade, and it's a side entrance. There's offices, so the front of the building is actually office buildings. There's a bookstore inside. There's a coffee house, so people just come and meet there to have coffee. There's even a plant nursery, so people come there to buy plants. There's a bookstore, so yeah, it's really a nice place to spend time. There's some food production. There's a wedding venue place, so the building that you see on the bottom, you can see the small greenhouse. That's where they do weddings too, so you can rent it out for weddings. There's a product shoot, lounge venue, workshop space. So the list goes on, and it's really amazing that if you have these type of investments, if something like COVID hits again, or now the oil crisis, now you have a diversified income, and so you're not dependent on only just one income. So that's really what it's about. So why then, how should you actually create these type of projects? Is that people who create exceptional real estate, they have a plan. You know that. Everyone who's here in real estate, if you've invested, you made a plan. You didn't just go and build something. You made a plan. And it's exactly the same with the landscaping environment. You can't just go to the nursery, buy some plants, and hope that they will be the right ones. That just doesn't work. So that's the kind of projects that we do. We need to have a specific plan. So that's what we do for our clients. We create these beautiful environments. So really, it's an attraction point. People want to be in these gardens. This is actually one of our clients on a farm. And so people love to spend time in these environments. So we have visitor centers here. Appealing land developments with a strong vision attract more and better investors. So if you're starting a project and you want to attract investors to your project, you better start thinking about how is your project positioned in terms of doing something good for the nature. You'll find better investors, because now a lot of investors start to get more picky. They say, I don't just want to give you money, I want to know that it has an impact. This is part of the whole trend in impact investing. So that's where it can really help for you to attract more and better investors in your projects. So now there's a proven system and science to working with nature that increases the success of your real estate. It's called regenerative design. So in regenerative design, the key is soil health. So you want to keep your soil healthy, just like our human health. If you want to thrive in life, you have to be healthy, and it's the same with the soil. So we don't use any chemicals. We remove all the chemicals because they don't really work. It's only a short-term fix. And you've probably heard of this chemical called Roundup, or better known as glyphosate. Not only is it bad for the soil, it's killing us too. Like, people are dying all over the world because of this product. So you don't want to be using that in your garden. Even people have these immaculate lawns and they spray all kinds of chemicals, and then they roll in it with their kids and grandkids, and no, that is actually killing you. That gives you cancer, diabetes, all the modern diseases are related to this. So we have to stop doing that. Who wants to help stop using these kind of chemicals? Yes, thank you. So, and to do that, you need to do active soil improvement methods such as high-quality compost. You can't just use any compost, because actually most of the compost that you find at the garden centers is not good for your soil. They also put all kinds of chemicals. So you need to find the right soil to improve the health of your garden or your project. Yes, and so by increasing the health of your soil, you increase the water holding capacity and drainage capacity. So when you do it right, your soil becomes like a sponge. So imagine a sponge, you put that under the sink, it soaks up all the water, right? So it holds on to the water better. And even if it rains, or if there's too much water, it drains, right? And that's the kind of properties that we want in our project, in our gardens. Because if you don't do that, a drought might hit, all your plants die, or it rains a lot, and then you have floodings. So by using these methods, you actually create a much more resilient project. And so this is really, really important. Write this down. You need a regenerative real estate assessment to reduce your costs and increase your property value and get better tenants. You can't just go and do something. You need to actually first assess first. Like, what is the current condition of the land? what's the soil, what's happening, and only then you can start thinking of improving it. So there's a lot of grants and financial incentives available in Canada. I'm not going to go in much detail, but you probably have heard of the MLI Select in Canada. When you do a much better effort in increasing the environment of your project and you show that, you're going to get better investments. In this case, you can do projects only with 5% down. You might have 50 years amortization and much lower interest rates if your project applies to these landscaping ways that we offer. So having a strategic partner in regenerative design is the key. Just like imagine if you're sick, you're just not going to try and solve that problem on your own. You go to a doctor, you go to an expert that can help you. So that's really, really important for you to be successful at this. And so, yeah, I want to talk a little more about our offer. It's the regenerative real estate plan that I'm doing with Alfonso and Helene. It's really fun. We're doing a first pilot project, and then we're going to expand it across all their projects. Expanding, right? So, yeah, and to do that, you have to start with the regenerative real estate assessment. So just quickly, my achievements. I'm an international award-winning author. I have a master in engineering of landscape architecture. I have clients in 5 continents. We're spread out over the world in Australia, Europe, of course, North America, Costa Rica. So we're well represented across the world. And I'm the founder of Paulownia Landscape Architects. And I'm the founder and host of the Regenerative Design podcast. So if you love to hear more, go to my podcast. It's really interesting. I'm interviewing leaders across the world that are doing something similar to me. And then I'm also the founder of the Garden of Your Dreams Masterclass, where I help private people how to design their own garden. And I'm also starring in The Cure, an inside job, which is a movie about regenerative health. But in fact, my life wasn't always like this. I was always last in class in grades. My teacher told me I have to change to less academic schools. My girlfriend dumped me, and that really broke my heart. And at some point, I lost all my money because I was traveling across the world like a hippie. That's why I'm having the flip-flops. And then I got asthma from pesticides on our family farm, and I was coughing really hard for over 5 years. And then I became depressed, and I was hating my 9-to-5 job for over 3 years, and I became a very bitter and angry person. So now I have decided to dedicate my life to helping you to be a successful regenerative real estate investor. So I'm introducing the regenerative real estate plan. Interested? Who's interested? Who wants to know more? Yes. So let's have a quick look. So what we do first a money in the ground audit. We look at where is the money hiding? Where is it hiding in the soil so we can start getting it out? And then we do a land risk and resilience score. Then we do soil health assessment. And then that's the most important plan we do. We do a land as a financial instrument plan. So we map out everything for you, how you can actually get the most out of your soil, not only out of your soil, but out of your land. So, and then we do a phased execution plan. So then we can connect you with the right contractors to actually get it built. So we operate just like an architect, but we do it for outdoors. That's why I'm a landscape architect. So then we do an OPEX and maintenance compression plan. So we really look where can we make the maintenance much better. So you remember that I showed you that this was not for you if you think that curb appeal is not important. Well, that's exactly what we help you with, is improving the curb appeal. You also remember that I told you that you'll learn how smart investors turn land into a financial instrument. Well, that's exactly what we do in that program. And then you remember that we said, okay, imagine if your asset appreciated faster than your neighbors. So that's exactly what we're doing. We're helping you to achieve that. We also talked that there's a lot of money left in the ground. We help you get it out. I told you that the landscaping and gardening industry don't want you to be successful, but when we work together, I'm on your side, and we give the landscaping industry the right instructions to do exactly what I tell them to do so that your project becomes successful. And so we help you also reduce with the maintenance because of this specific regenerative system. And I told you that your property will sell faster for more and it will lease better, and that's exactly what we help you with. The property value go up, we talked about that. We're running out of time here. But yeah, grants and financial incentives, and you need an expert, and that's why I'm here. So talk to me at my booth today. I have a booth here. And yeah, so let's look at what Sabine has to say. By working with Matthieu, I learned so many secrets that I applied immediately in my properties, which made me save lots of time and money. So use this QR code to start your assessment. So just take out your phones, scan this code, or take a picture, send it to your family, to everyone who's in real estate. And it's a really simple assessment. So you just click on it and you go to a landing page. I actually have it here. So that's how it looks. You click on it, you answer a few questions to see if your project is eligible to be helped. And it'll actually give you a score showing you if your project is doing okay or if you can do it better. So we're going to wrap it up. And a little bonus for you, I only have, because I came all the way from Europe, I only have 10 copies of my book. And so the first people that come to me at my booth, I will give them a free copy, a free signed copy of my book. Already someone came. So come to me, talk to me at my booth if you want a copy of my book for free. For only 10. I only have 10. So thank you very much for your attention. We're going to go through it because we're running out of time. Thank you.